Alone in the sinister Alaskan wilderness, 7 forbidden rules that could save my haunted life. Sarah could feel the shadows stretching around her, creeping beyond the trees like phantom fingers. She stood at the edge of her new life, a dilapidated cabin in the empty expanse of the Alaskan wilderness. It was supposed to symbolize hope, but as the sun dipped below the horizon, the oppressive quiet of the woods felt more like a warning. The unease burrowed into her bones. She tightened her grip on Jamie and Emily's hands, the very warmth of them grounding her. They were safe, for now. The cabin had looked charming during the day, a postcard of rustic simplicity. But once the golden light vanished, the surrounding forest transformed. The tall pines lurked, their branches twisted like skeletal arms reaching for her. Shadows danced in the corners of her vision, pulling her gaze into the ink-black depths of the trees. Her heart raced as she struggled against the rising dread. Was it simply fear of the unknown, or was there something genuinely sinister threading through these woods? Rustling leaves echoed in the silence, a chorus of whispers that seemed to conspire against her. As the darkness thickened, it was as if the forest had its grip tightening around her throat. Emily tugged on her arm, wide eyes searching for reassurance. "Mom, can we go back inside?" Her voice was barely above a whisper, but it sliced through the tension like ice. They stepped inside the cabin, where dim light flickered from a single bulb. But as night fell, the comfortable home morphed into an echo chamber, amplifying every creak and groan of the old wood. Sarah glanced toward the looming darkness outside, her gut clenching. She tried to calm her children, but the unease twisted within her. There were things out there, things that called to children, pulling them deeper into the night. It wasn't long before curiosity led her to the floorboards, where a loose panel revealed her father's old journal. She pulled it into the light, excitement quickly turning to terror as she scanned the unsettling words. Rule 1: Never wander off the path. It leads to the lost. Her skin prickled. The more she read, the more the sense of dread grew, like a storm brewing just beyond her view. Each of the 7 rules detailed local legends, a morbid bedtime tale that masked dreadful truths. Panic began to gnaw at her sanity. Suddenly, a loud bang jolted her to attention. She spun to the door, the children huddled close to her, eyes wide with fear. "Did you hear that?" Jamie asked, voice trembling. Their eyes locked, and there was no comforting response to offer. Outside, the wind howled, whistling through the trees, mocking their fear. Just then, a brilliant flash caught her attention. A shadow darted by the window, vanishing before she could comprehend it. "Before we continue, I need to tell you something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to their system and many people are missing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and select all notifications so you don't miss future videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Footsteps scuffed against the porch. Sarah's heart pounded like a war drum. Shadows slipped through the corners of her vision. Panic-honed instincts screamed at her to act as she threw the door open, scanning the darkness. Jamie and Emily clung to her side, their breaths hitching. Every whispering leaf felt as though it were trying to draw them in. Then disaster struck. In a split second, Jamie decided to run outside, giggling as they played hide-and-seek. "Jamie!" Sarah's scream tore through the night, but the woods swallowed it whole. Her heart plummeted. The shadows began to close in as she raced after him, branches clawing at her skin, the wind shrieking in protest. "Jamie!" she shouted. Desperation clawing at her throat. The threshold of the unknown loomed ominously ahead. As she fought through the sprawling wilderness, she trembled with the chilling realization that the forest wasn't just a backdrop, it was alive. What awaited her in the dark? Had her father's warnings been mere myths, or traps that ensnared the unwary? She had to find Jamie. And with every step, the sinister whisper of the woods echoed louder in her ears. It was just the beginning. Sarah plunged deeper into the cold, suffocating darkness. Each step was a battle against the gnawing dread that accompanied her, a primal instinct screaming for her to turn back. But Jamie was out there. She could hear the mischievous laughter that now felt distant, distorted through the thick veil of night. Jamie! Panic laced her voice. The trees stirred, their whispering branches almost answering her call. A chill danced along her spine, as though the woods were alive, listening. She stumbled over a root, regaining her footing just in time to hear a series of soft, childish giggles. "Mom!" Jamie's voice was barely a whisper, laughter tinged with fear. The sound came from her right, somewhere just beyond a dense cluster of trees. Sarah's heart raced faster. "Stay where you are." She was breathless now, moving faster but with caution, her heart pounding in tune with the sinister rhythm of the forest. The air thickened, and the eerie sounds of the night surged. It felt as though every shadow was stretching, reaching for something or someone. Emerging into a small clearing, Sarah squinted into the night. In the center, something glinted, a flash of silver, an unnatural shimmer that drew her in. But that wasn't what made her stomach twist. No, it was the sight of Jamie, standing still, frozen like a statue, with wide, terrified eyes. Jamie! Relief washed over her, yet it quickly morphed into dread as she noticed he was staring at something behind her. She turned slowly, each heartbeat seeming to echo in the stillness. Nothing. "Mom!" Jamie cried again, this time a shriek of terror that sent ice through Sarah's veins. She reached for him, the shadow of a presence almost tangible in the air. The hairs on her arms stood straight, prickling with electric unease. "I'm coming, sweetheart." She ran toward him, but halted suddenly, her feet unwilling to move any closer to the edge of the clearing. The sky above darkened, a thick, swirling mass of clouds blocking any slivers of light from the moon. From the corner of her eye, she noticed movement at the tree line. A figure, shrouded in shadow, emerged. Long limbs, twisted and angular, scraped against the trees as it inched towards her, a grotesque mimicry of a human form. Its face was obscured, but she felt its gaze drilling into her. "Run!" She screamed, instinctively grabbing Jamie's arm, pulling him close. "Emily!" A fresh wave of panic coursed through her veins. "We need to find Emily. Now!" The grotesque figure paused, as if considering Sarah's words. It tilted its head, the darkness swirling around it almost alive. A cold wind whistled through the clearing, wrapping around them like fingers, caressing her neck in a way that felt both helpless and predatory. "Mom!" Jamie's voice broke, trembling with fear. "I know." She spat back, willing her legs to move. But before she could take a step, the figure lunged forward, its maw impossibly wide, filled with darkness that seemed to swallow sound. With a primal scream, Sarah turned, yanking Jamie behind her as they fled deeper into the forest. The branches scraped against her skin as they darted into the obsidian shadows. Every breath echoed the thudding of her heart, fear choking her throat. "Mom! What is that?" Jamie cried, the innocence of his question amplifying the horror racing inside her. "I don't know." Pressing forward, she strained to find the right path, clutching Jamie's hand too tightly, desperation morphing her grip into a cage. But with each step, the whispers in the trees grew louder, twisting together into a cruel laughter that mocked her very existence. How long could they run? What waited for them in the heart of the forest? Straining to catch her breath, she felt as if she stumbled deeper into a nightmare without an escape. And then it hit her, the journal. The rules her father had written down. Had she broken some hidden law of the woods by coming here? "Jamie, we have to find somewhere safe." But safety felt like a distant thought as they powered through the dark, the laughter still echoing, the figure somewhere behind them, waiting for the moment she could no longer run. What else lurked out there in the blackened trees? The sinister whispers seemed to urge her on, and then she saw it, aglow in the distance, a soft flicker like a candle. But was it hope or a trap waiting to ensnare them both? The flickering light danced like a beckoning flame. Sarah hesitated, but the laugh echoed louder behind them, visceral, tormenting. It snaked through the trees, a reminder of the terror they fled. The light promised something: safety, or perhaps just a fleeting moment of hope before darkness consumed them. "Mom, wait," Jamie urged, pulling back slightly. His small frame trembled with fear, yet he tugged her away from the path they were following. "What if it's not real?" The words hung thick in the air, and a bitter chill seeped into Sarah's bones. She squeezed his hand tighter, feeling the warmth of his small body, anchoring her sanity. "We need to keep moving," she rasped. "We have to see what it is." Reluctantly, she led Jamie past the jagged shadows. Each step was heavy, the weight of unease clinging to her like damp leaves. The shadows stirred, creating waves of darkness that rolled and pulsed with sinister intent. The laughter grew fainter, but not gone. A reminder. They were never alone. As they neared the glow, the forest transformed. The trees became gnarled sentinels, leaning in as if to listen. The light turned a sickly shade of blue, illuminating a weathered cabin shrouded in mist. Its windows were dark, soulless, lifeless. Had it stood abandoned or just untouched, harboring secrets that echoed through its walls? "Is that where Emily is?" Jamie whispered, his voice shaking. She could hear the depths of hope mixed with a potent fear. "I don't know," Sarah replied, torn between dread and desperation. The cabin loomed larger, dominating the clearing, big enough to hide all manner of horrors. It seemed to sigh as she approached, like it was waking from a deep slumber. They creaked forward, cautiously, every instinct urging them to turn back. But as she reached for the door, it swung open a crack, creaking as if something unseen beckoned them inside. A low moan escaped through the gap, plucking at her nerves. "Mom, please!" Jamie cried, a whimper escaping his lips. "I don't want to go in." "Neither do I," she sighed, "but we have to find Emily." The weight of Jamie's fear mirrored her own, tightening around her rib cage. Just as she was about to push the door wide, a shrill scream ripped through the air from within, high-pitched and belonging to a child. "Emily!" Sarah gasped, her heart leaping into her throat. "Mom, wait!" Jamie pulled harder, panic surging in his voice. Ignoring him, Sarah stepped into the cabin. The air thickened around her, steeped in decay and the scent of something rotting. Shadows pooled in corners, swirling like smoke, and the glow illuminated stencils of old, faded chalk drawings on the walls, children's faces with wide, haunting grins. A flash of movement caught her eye in the corner. There, in a darkened room beyond, she saw a flicker of light. "Emily!" she called out, racing toward the sound. The floorboards groaned, protesting beneath her weight, threatening to buckle and collapse. Jamie's breath hitched behind her as he hesitated at the doorway. Suddenly, a figure emerged from the shadows, a silhouette of a small girl, trapped in the darkness, dancing under the flickering light. "Emily! Help me, Mama!" the child cried, reaching out with ghostly fingers. But as Sarah moved closer, the girl's face twisted with an expression of sheer terror, a warning as shrill laughter echoed around them, mocking her desperation. "Get away from her!" Jamie shouted, unleashing every ounce of power in his small frame. The laughter intensified, rising like a storm roaring through the cabin. The shadows deepened, closing in around Sarah, and she felt their cold brushes against her skin. The grotesque figure from the woods seemed to materialize in the corner of her eye. "Run, Jamie! Run!" she screamed, adrenaline surging through her veins. But where could they run? The darkness was thickening, swallowing the cabin whole. Not just against them, but within them. Just as they turned to flee, another shriek reverberated through the walls, this one chillingly familiar. "Mom! Help!" Emily's voice echoed again, twisted and lost. Sarah froze. What had she stumbled into? Trapped among shadows, could they even escape? The cabin seemed alive, exhaling the weight of lost souls, a keeper of secrets that could tear them apart. As a crash echoed from the unseen depths of the cabin, Sarah could only hope that whatever awaited them outside wouldn't be worse than what lurked within, and as they hesitated, the darkness coiled tighter, filling the air with a voice hot with malice, "You're not leaving, not yet." The shadows slithered closer, encasing Sarah and Jamie in a cocoon of fear. Sarah's heart pounded in her chest, a frantic drumbeat against the encroaching darkness. She could feel it, the malevolence swirling around them, threatening to drag them into the depths of despair. "Emily!" she screamed again, desperately. The sound bounced off the walls, swallowed by the sinister aura of the cabin. It felt as if the house itself cursed their very presence, each breath they took steeped in the essence of dread. "Mom!" Jamie's voice wavered, his small hand squeezing hers with a grip that radiated panic. "We can't stay here." I know." She gasped, casting her gaze around, looking for an escape, a way out. But the cabin seemed to shift, the very space contorting as it absorbed their despair. That eerie laugh echoed again, closer now, reverberating through the rotting wood. It was a sound that twisted her insides, a reminder that something wicked was watching, waiting. It delighted in her torment. "Come on," she urged, yanking Jamie, her determination like a fleeting flame against the overwhelming darkness. She turned back toward the door, but it slammed shut with a ferocious thump. The force made the floor shake beneath their feet, as if the cabin itself had awoken in wrath. "Look!" Jamie pointed, eyes wide. A shadow flickered at the edge of the beam of light, a shuddering form wavering. It seemed to pulse like a heartbeat, rising and sinking as if it breathed. "It's Emily. I saw her!" Jamie shouted, desperation tugging at his voice. "No! We can't!" Sarah shouted back. "We have to find a way out first." But the temptation grew as with the next flicker of light, the figure materialized again. Emily stood there, sorrowful and pleading. "Mom! Help me!" Sarah's heartache felt sharp and suffocating. "I'm coming, baby." She lunged toward the girl without thinking, propelled by instinct, but Jamie's grip tightened around her wrist. "Don't go. It's a trap. Please!" Emily cried, her ghostly voice echoing off the walls, twisting into something sinister as the air thickened with dread. The laughter surged, swirling around them, mocking, taunting. "Come closer," it beckoned, promising freedom mixed with illusions. "Get down," Sarah hissed, pulling Jamie to crouch behind a dusty armchair. The laughter roared, erupting into a cacophony of ghastly sounds. The windows rattled as the walls seemed to breathe, pulsating with unearthly life. She stared at the door, the only way out, but it felt miles away. "What do we do?" Jamie whispered, eyes ablaze with terror. "Stay quiet, we have to wait," Sarah murmured, gritting her teeth as the swirling shadows inched closer, eager to consume them. Every second stretched unbearably long. Emily appeared again, her small face pressed against the glass, eyes wide and pleading. "Help!" she cried, her voice ignited by despair. The cabin vibrated, a low growl resonating through the wooden bones. Shadows flicked about, darting faster, threatening to engulf them both. It was then Sarah noticed the patterns carved into the floor, crude drawings of children playing, their faces somehow macabre. Suddenly, realization hit her like ice water. "Jamie!" She breathed sharply, fear bursting into clarity. "This cabin, it's feeding on them. It wants us too." A chill slithered up her spine, vibrato tremors amplifying her panic. They couldn't stay. They had to escape before the dark gave way to worse horrors, but the shadows shifted, and suddenly a shape moved towards them. It was no longer just a trap of darkness. Sarah's blood turned to ice, a horror crafted from nightmares stepped into the flickering light. "Now you will join us," it whispered, the voice dripping with venom, and just as Sarah's resolve flickered in the face of impending doom, the floorboard beneath her cracked, a jagged fissure opening wide, ready to swallow them whole. "Mom! No!" Jamie cried, his scream piercing the air as everything crashed down around them, and behind them, amid the chaos, grew a sinister whisper, almost lost to the shadows. "Make your choice. Whatever was tangled in the dark was not done with them yet." Could they survive the choosing, or would the cabin claim another pair of souls? The crack in the floor yawned wide, a gaping maw that promised nothing but despair. Sarah felt the pull, the sinister gravity of the darkness, gripping her like a vice. Panic surged. "We need to run," she shouted, adrenaline sparking her limbs into motion, but the shadows had plans of their own. They coiled around her ankles, sticky and viscous, slowing her down. "Jamie!" she screamed, yanking at the grip that held them both captive. The laughter echoed, swirling like wind through trees, twisting around them, threatening to tear them apart. "Run!" Jamie cried, still caught by the spell of the shadows. His small body trembled, caught between fear and loyalty. She couldn't let him go. "Hold on to me!" Sarah yelled, her voice a battle cry, desperation and love fueling her urgency. With a fierce tug, she pulled Jamie free, and they lunged towards the door, breathless and desperate. But just as they reached for the knob, the door shuddered violently, locking them outside the light of hope. The cabin moaned like an angry beast, and a chill seeped into their bones. Emily's voice sliced through the echoing chaos. "Mom! Please!" The figure at the window twisted, her features racked with a mix of pleading and something darker lurking behind her eyes. Sarah dared to look, her heart betraying her instincts. Emily seemed so close, yet so dangerously far away. "Don't open the door!" Jamie exclaimed, pulling at her sleeve, but the urge to rescue her child was overpowering. "I need to save her!" Sarah panted, torn between the desperate cries of her daughter and the voice of reason inside her head screaming to resist the call. A burst of light flared in the cabin, illuminating dark corners where shadows writhed, and Sarah saw them, the remnants of the children who had once played in this accursed place, their faces twisted in agony, mouths open in silent screams. Each image embedded in her mind like a dagger, severing her thoughts. With a surge of defiance, Sarah gripped Jamie's hand tighter and shouted, "We're not staying. We're getting out." They raced back from the door, hoping for clarity in their retreat. The shadows writhed, snapping at their heels, pulling at their clothes as if they were made of viscous fog. Heart pounding, Sarah turned, her eyes darting around for a way out, a glimpse of salvation. "Under the stairs." Jamie pointed, his voice suddenly steadier. A small space nestled between the stairs and the wall. It was barely big enough for them to squeeze into, but it might be their only chance. "Go!" Sarah urged, pushing him forward. As they crouched together in the narrow darkness, the eerie laughter grew louder, vibrating in their chests like a drum. The shadows crept closer, shrieking with anger, but the small space felt momentarily safe. "We'll wait till it passes," Sarah whispered, her voice tremulous but thick with resolve. "Mom," Jamie said softly, trembling. "Will Emily come back for us?" Sarah swallowed hard, countering the creeping terror. I don't know, sweetie. But we can't trust it." The shadows lessened for a heartbeat, leaving only echoes of distant, ominous whispers. "Come play with us. Join us forever." Bile rose in Sarah's throat. They were being enticed. The cabin wanted them just as it had so many before. Time stretched, and every second felt like a lifetime. "Mom, what if it takes her?" Jamie's stare held a blend of innocence and fear, the sincerity piercing through the collective dread. "Then we won't let it," she hissed, determination flickering with each moment they remained hidden from the claws of darkness. "We'll find a way to bring her back." As if in response, the floor creaked ominously, a thumping sound reverberating from somewhere deep within the cabin. Blood thundered in Sarah's ears. What new horror was waiting? A whisper emerged, curling around her consciousness. Only one can leave, choose, or be consumed. Fear wrapped around them tighter, stifling. The choice loomed heavy in the air like smoke, a sickening weight. Among the shadows, they remained hidden, staring into the abyss of uncertainty. And just as Sarah opened her mouth to make the impossible decision, the flickering light fractured, and the cabin began to shift once more in response to their indecision. "Mom!" Jamie squeaked, his small body trembling in the small space. "Stay close. Stay quiet," Sarah urged, but her heart raced against the clock of survival. They had to move. They had to act. The whisper echoed, "Will you choose to save one or both?" At that moment, the laughter erupted into a booming roar, shaking the very walls. They had run out of time. Could they escape the darkness before it consumed them whole, or would the sinister choice bring doom? The laughter surged, bursting with a monstrous joy that sent tremors through the ground beneath them. Sarah squeezed Jamie's hand, her heart racing with the realization that time was slipping through their fingers like sand. The whisper echoed again, chillingly clear. "Choose." "Mom, I don't want to choose." Jamie's wide eyes met hers, full of fear and uncertainty, and her resolve wavered. How could she force a decision? "Look, we can't stay here," Sarah cried, feeling the shadows creep closer, curling around the narrow space. "We have to get out of this place." Jamie shook his head, trembling. "What if we don't? What if we just know?" She interrupted, panic pushing her to act. The weight of indecision pressed upon them, suffocating her thoughts. With a surge of will, she pushed backward, shoving Jamie along with her into the darkness behind the stairs. They braced themselves, hearts pounding, as the laughter grew darker, morphing into agonized shrieks. "Help us, stay with us," the whispers intertwined with the laughter, calling them deeper into the abyss. The walls of the cabin vibrated, and Sarah could feel a sensation like icy breath brushing against her skin. The feeling sunk into her, curling in her gut. They had to move, but every moment of hesitation solidified the shadow's resolve. She glanced up to the crack in the floor above, where splintered wood framed a world that felt all too far away. "We have to get to the door." "Mom!" Jamie whimpered, clutching the hem of her shirt. "What if it takes you?" A surge of terror gripped her heart. She couldn't abandon her son. "We'll go together. I promise." Determination forced her to rise, gently nudging Jamie towards the only way out. Gathering every ounce of courage, they crawled out, the wooden stairs groaning in protest under their weight. As they moved, whispers grew blaring, drowning out their thoughts. "Join us, play with us forever." The door, sturdy but shadowy, loomed just ahead. Its brass knob shimmered ominously under the flickering light, promising more horror and freedom. "Mom, what if it's a trick?" Jamie's whisper cracked, despair etching deeper lines into his innocent face. "We'll find out together," she said, steeling herself. "Are you ready?" With the shadows swirling like a tempest around them, Sarah nodded toward the door. Jamie's grip tightened as they approached, the echoes of lost souls clawing at their resolve. But they were backed into a corner, they had to act now. In one swift motion, she reached for the knob, heart racing, praying that this wasn't a trap. As her fingers brushed cool metal, a sudden silence enveloped them. The world paused. "Do you choose to join us?" A deafening roar erupted then, as the floorboards splintered beneath their feet, and thick shadows flared up like monstrous flames. Sarah's scream was swallowed by the depths of the cabin. "No! No!" The laughter surged as the air thickened and twisted. Just as they were about to be pulled back into darkness, the cabin shuddered like a beast awakening. With a powerful thrust, she turned the knob, slamming the door open behind them. Staring into the blinding light of the outside world felt like a breath of fresh air, but the shadows were not far behind. Tendrils reached out, clawing at her ankles, desperately trying to drag them back into the night. Sarah and Jamie stumbled into the endless expanse of the Alaskan wilderness, the fog swirling around them like a gathering storm. But the safety of the outdoors came with new horrors. The forest breathed around them, trees swaying unnaturally, their leaves whispering secrets of the cabin's dark history. "Mom, where's Emily?" Jamie's face was torn between relief and persistence, an aching hole in Sarah's heart. "I don't know, sweetie," she choked, pulling him close. "But we'll find her." As they stood on the threshold between light and darkness, something shifted in the woods. A figure emerged from the mist, standing alone among the twisted trees. A silhouette of familiar sorrow. "Help me." Emily's voice pierced through the silence, echoing the horrors they had just fled. Sarah's heart raced as shadows began to close in around them once again. "Stay here." But as she took a step forward, the very ground shifted beneath her, and the chilling laugh echoed once more. Only one can leave. Would they be able to face the darkness once again for her, or would the sinister choices continue to tear their family apart? The ground beneath Sarah shuddered with a low, menacing growl. She steadied herself, heart thudding, the familiar darkness swirling at her ankles like hungry vipers. "Emily!" she called, her voice nearly lost in the tree's whispering chorus. "Mom!" "No!" Jamie tugged at her sleeve, fear etched across his small face. "You can't go. It's a trap." But the desperation in Emily's voice clouded Sarah's judgment. She had fought so hard to escape, to save her son. Now, abandoning Emily felt like a betrayal. "Let me just see her." As Sarah stepped deeper into the woods, the warmth of the sunlight faded, replaced by a biting chill that sank into her bones. The air thickened, swirling around them with a palpable dread. Every rustle of leaves brought with it a new wave of fear. "Mom!" Jamie's voice trembled, his grip tightening. She turned back to him, eyes darkened with worry. "Stay behind me," she commanded, feeling the oppressive weight of the shadows pushing against her back. Emily stood not far away, a ghostly figure bathed in mist, beckoning with an urgency that felt both real and surreal. "Please help me, Mom." As Sarah approached, the feeling of wrongness surged, prickling down her spine. Something in the way Emily swayed, her once vibrant spirit now dulled, sent a wave of nausea through Sarah. It was as if the wilderness had devoured part of her. "Stay where you are," Jamie shouted finally, stepping forward. "You're not Emily. You can't be." The moment Jamie spoke, Emily's face contorted with rage, her eyes momentarily flashing with shadowy flames. "You're right, Jamie," she hissed, her voice dropping to an eerie cadence. "I'm not her. But she needs you." Behind her, the forest warped and twisted, branches curling inwards like claws eager to snag their prey. "Run!" Sarah screamed, yanking Jamie back even as her own instincts tugged her toward the colliding shapes in the mist. They stumbled together, dodging the trees that seemed to close ranks. But the laughter returned, a cacophony of mockery that shrieked with gleeful malice. "You can't escape. One must stay, one must play." Jamie whimpered, echoing the words as they ran, sweat pooling at the back of Sarah's neck. They dashed over uneven ground, roots fangs beneath their feet, making each step treacherous. "Mom, what do we do?" Jamie panted, fear distorting his youthful face. "I don't know, Jamie. Just hold on to me." Sarah shouted, grasping for her own resolve, a single clear thought in the haze of terror. But then it hit her, the choice. The unseen weight, the sinister ultimatum that had haunted them since they entered that torturous cabin. The laughter grew, resonating like a drumbeat in her chest. Only one could leave. A chilling hope ignited inside her. "Maybe we can trick it," she blurted. "If we act like we're choosing, we can confuse it." "You mean play along?" Jamie's eyes widened. "Mom, what if it doesn't work?" "There's no other way," she replied, scanning the looming trees, feeling the very fabric of the forest tightening. I'll say I choose to stay with Emily, and we hope it lets us both go. But will that even work? Before she could finish, the shadows surged around them again, the mist growing thicker, suffocating her thoughts. Whatever was manipulating them wasn't just a spirit, it was alive, watching, waiting. Choose now. That mocking voice boomed again. Sarah's heart raced. Join us! Screamed the darkness, rising with a malevolence that felt tangible. As she stood grasping Jamie's hand, the shadows circled tighter. There was no point in hesitation. They had to embody bravery not only for themselves but for Emily, too. Together, she said fiercely. Trust me, we have to choose together. With shaking hands, she let go of the terror for just a moment, her heart pounding in the chaos. But as she prepared to voice a choice, something shattered in the air suddenly. Emily's haunting laughter rang out, blending into the shadows, urging them into a new horror. Choose wisely. The thickening mist poured around them, begging to encapsulate everything they loved. The moment of choice loomed, but what lay in that choice? The consequences could mean a descent into madness, but would it save them? What would they decide as the darkness spilled forward, ready to consume them whole? The mist pressed harder around them, each breath feeling like inhaling ice. Sarah's heart hammered in her chest as she focused on Emily's figure, now a shimmering echo of the daughter she once knew. Emily, but fear strangled the words before they could reach her lips. Mom! Don't! Jamie kicked the dirt underfoot, his childish defiance suddenly sparking a glimmer of hope. She's not real. Remember what we talked about not believing the lies? The shadows pulsed around them, a twisted symphony of sorrow and rage as the trees began to shiver, their bark morphing into faces that screamed silently. You think you can outsmart this place? It knows your fears. It knows your heart. The darkness taunted, the voice echoing around them like thunder. Hold on to me, Jamie. Sarah yelled, locking her fingers around her son's wrist, keeping him close. She could feel the pull of the mist, a siren's call wrapping around her soul, promising solace but selling despair. Emily! She called out. If you're really my daughter, then come back to us. Fight! There was silence for a heartbeat before Emily's laughter slashed through the fog, sharp as a knife. Mommy wants to choose, but does Mommy know the stakes? Emily's fake smile split her face, transforming it into something monstrous. We could have so much fun playing. Wouldn't you like that, Jamie? The shadows twisted, promises echoing of a game that was never meant to be won. Stop. Just stop. Jamie yelled back, his small voice fierce despite the terror swirling around them. You've got to leave us alone. Sarah felt a wave of pride surge through her. Jamie was so brave, her brave boy. Yet, along with pride came a familiar taste of dread. What if they were wrong? What if this all led to their doom? Choose. The ominous voice boomed again, and in that instant, thick roots from the forest floor sprung to life, curling around Sarah's legs, pulling her down. No! Jamie, run! She fought against the clammy grip, tugging back. But the forest was relentless. 1,000 voices whispered promises, taunting her. You can join her, let her take your place. The forest knows your secrets, Sarah. They will keep you safe. A glimmer caught her eye. Emily's form flickered, a distorted image wavering. Mom! You can't believe that. Fight against it. Choose your freedom. Screamed the shadows, as the roots tightened their grip, pulling Sarah and Jamie from the path they fought so hard to follow. The trees shook, the sounds of their distress merging into the darkness. Make your choice now. The words crashed over her, forcing her to weigh her own desires against what lay ahead. Was there an escape she couldn't see, or was the horror of the game always the point? With colossal effort, she focused on Jamie, his small frame, his fierce spirit burning bright against the encroaching darkness. I choose to stay. I chose you over her. The moment the words left her lips, the forest shrieked with a fury that rattled her bones. The roots released their grasp, but the air turned electric, filled with rage and raw power. Emily's facade flickered in agony. No. I want to be left behind. You must fulfill the pact. An unbearable pressure twisted around them, all at once promising liberation while threatening oblivion. I won't let you take him. Jamie, run! Sarah shouted breathlessly, trying to clutch onto her child. But the shadows were alive, swirling, pulsing with energy that threatened to consume everything. Mom! Jamie cried out, still rooted to the spot, unable to escape the tempest of fear. What did you do? Trust me. She shouted, despair threading through her voice. As the unforgiving darkness surged toward them, something in the atmosphere shifted. A haunting wail echoed through the trees, a sound that curled into her bones, striking fear deeper than anything she had known. Mom, what happens now? Jamie's small face flickered between terror and hope as they stood at the heart of the storm. The shadows whispered again, coiling and expanding, a grotesque dance of potential that promised more horrors. There was no retreat from this nightmarish choice. As the air thickened, she felt another heartbeat, the forest's. It beat in time with her own uncertainty. What would they face next, as the darkness howled for its own sacrifice? In that moment, everything glimmered with malevolence, and each heartbeat brought them closer to an unknown horror. The ground trembled beneath them, the shadows pulsating and writhing like a living entity. It was no longer just a threat, it had become a tangible force hungry for despair. Sarah's head spun. The cries of the trees morphed into something she could only describe as an anguished chant, filling her with dread. Mom! Look out! Jamie's high-pitched warning sliced through her fog of confusion. She barely had time to turn before a root, thicker than her arm, lashed out from the ground, striking the air where she had just stood. The force of it knocked her off balance, sending her staggering backward. Jamie! She tried to reach for him, but the mist swirled, blocking her path. Every other object in the woods faded into the background, turning their world into an eerie tunnel of white. She could feel the icy tendrils reaching for her, whispering, coaxing. Stay with us, no. Jamie screamed, his voice a piercing note in the cacophony. The fear etched on his face ignited something deep within Sarah. The instinct to protect her child surged like a wildfire. Run, Jamie. Just run. She shouted back, panic lacing her voice, but he only stood there, wide-eyed, paralyzed by the scene unfolding. Suddenly, the laughter returned, echoing off the trees, and Sarah felt it rip through her, a cruel mockery of joy. Leave, dear boy. Emily's voice rang in the air, dangerously sweet but laced with something sinister. Mommy has chosen. You can play with us too. Everything twisted inside Sarah. Jamie wasn't meant to be here, trapped in this waking nightmare. She forced herself to move, to reach for him, but the ground shifted again, the roots ensnaring her ankles tighter, almost painfully so. Get away! Jamie shouted back, fear and confusion playing on his face. Mom, don't! But something twisted in Sarah's gut. Was she really losing her son to this? No! She cried, a fierce roar rising from her as she tore at the roots, digging her feet into the ground, anchoring herself to the love she felt for him. I'm not leaving you. Mom, I'm scared. His voice cut through her heart like glass. Each syllable was a shard, stabbing her with reality. She looked over at him, terror lining his features, and all at once, the battlefield became clear. Jamie! Stay with me. We can fight together. The shadows shivered at her words, the trees bending in an oppressive silence. It felt as if the forest itself held its breath. The fog swirled again, and a low growl vibrated through the air. A choice must be made. A sacrifice must be offered. It was the shadow's voice, deep and penetrating, shooting chills down her spine. Mom, Jamie said weakly, if it means keeping me safe, no. She shook her head fiercely. I want to lose you. But the deathly vapor around them rippled with anticipation, every whisper feeling like it sought to drown her spirit. Not a game to lose, but a chance to win, Emily called out one last time, her figure flickering, childlike innocence twisted into something grotesque. You wanted her back, didn't you? What do I have to do? Sarah shouted, desperation strangling her hope. The shadows swelled closer, surrounding Jamie and her, blocking any chance for escape. To choose is to fight or to die. With every ounce of resolve, Sarah shouted back, I will fight. Who was this creature that wore her daughter's face? It was a deception crafted by pure malice, and she would not be its pawn. As the mists thickened, a primal energy surged from deep within her. But it wasn't enough, she felt the pull of the shadows tightening, grasping for her son. The mist began to shift, revealing treacherous paths obscured by illusion. Just beyond them, she caught a glimpse of a dark, gaping maw, the source, the heart of this nightmare. Jamie. She yanked with all her strength against the roots, feeling the strain of every vine, every whispered promise that sunk deeper into her mind. Mom, his voice quivered, a glimmer of fear and hope dancing in his eyes as he pleaded for her to take action. The forest held secrets more twisted than she imagined, and with every heartbeat, they drew closer to an unspeakable choice. Behind you. Jamie shouted as the shadows lunged again, a torrent of darkness surging toward them both. Would they survive this moment, or was there reckoning upon them? The silence that followed was deafening. In that moment, Sarah felt a choice clawing at her, not just for her freedom or her child's safety but for a confrontation with a truth she might not be ready to face. What awaited them at the edge of the abyss? The darkness surged around them, a living presence that breathed with a sinister hunger. Sarah's heart raced, each beat propelling her forward. No! She screamed, breaking through the suffocating dread. You want to take him? The shadows lurked around her, and fear clawed at her sanity. In that moment, something deep within her ignited a fierce love stronger than the suffocating shadows. I will protect you, Jamie. She shouted, turning toward him. But just as she did, another guttural roar echoed through the trees. Choose. Sacrifice or surrender. Tendrils of darkness lashed out like angry serpents, curling around her legs and pulling her back. Mom! Jamie shouted, his face a mixture of fear and determination. His small hands reached for her, a lifeline in the chaos. Don't let it. The air grew thick with tension, vibrating with the echoes of lost souls. But Sarah wouldn't let mists of despair creep into her heart. We won't be fallen prey to your games. She spat, summoning all the strength she could muster as she wrenched herself free. With renewed determination, she knelt down to Jamie, locking eyes with her son. Listen to me, Jamie, whatever happens, you keep running. You get to safety, and you don't look back. His innocent face twisted in emotion, tears welling up in his eyes. Mom, no, I want to leave you. Trust me. I love you. She roared, feeling the shadows thickening around her. And in that dark moment of resolve, she felt a shudder run through the forest. Something was shifting. The shadows hesitated, as if weighing her words. Join us, the darkness hissed, a wicked grin forming within the fog. Choose to stay, and only then can the two of you be more than you are. But Sarah knew what they truly wanted. This was not a fair game, it was a last-ditch effort to ensnare their souls. With every ounce of courage, she stood tall against the oppressive shadow. I refuse to play. She shouted, voice fierce. Not for you. Not for anything you can offer. Suddenly, she felt the ground beneath her quake, the roots withdrawing slightly, shocked by her defiance. The laughter grew, warping into something more sinister, an enraged shriek that shook the trees. We will take what you hold dear. With a surge of adrenaline, Sarah spun on her heels, dragging Jamie away from the core of darkness. Run! she cried, pushing him ahead. They darted through the forest, trying to escape the clutches of despair that reached hungrily at their heels. Drawing deeper into the dense woods, they stumbled through twisted branches, panting for breath while the shadows howled behind them. Time blurred as Sarah held onto her child, navigating their path. This way. Jamie pulled her closer, leading them toward an opening where the forest thinned, giving way to the moonlight that cast soft blue beams across the icy ground. But the darkness wasn't giving up. Tendrils loomed large, ready to snatch them back into that nightmare. Go! Go! Sarah urged, determination surging within. She could feel the pulsing heartbeat of the woods, the rhythm of a malignant presence, but every ounce of love for Jamie kept her fighting. As they pushed forward, the clearing opened into a vast, frozen lake, its surface glimmering under the moonlight like shards of shattered glass. What do we do? Jamie gasped, wide eyes filled with anxiety. Just hold on. Sarah yelled, the icy wind howling through the night, urging them to escape toward the edge of safety. The shadows shrieked, a chorus of anguish and anger rising, melding into a raging storm. With every ounce of strength, they sprinted across the frozen lake's surface, the crunching ice echoing the thunder in her heart. Did they stand a chance of surviving, of breaking through the web of despair and returning to the light? I can't see. Where do we go? Jamie cried, voice shaky with fear. Over there. She shouted, spotting a rise of snow-covered land at the far edge of the lake. We can make it. With tears streaming down her face, she took Jamie's hand, never letting go, ready to face this final moment together. Behind them, the shadows writhed and surged, but the light was now within their grasp. The icy air filled with those ghostly whispers, every breath feeling heavy, but they were moving forward. The moment they reached the outcrop, the ground trembled, the shadows collided behind them like thunder, and the air thickened as if the forest itself was screaming in fury. Step after desperate step, they climbed to safety, and as they broke over the ridge, dawn broke through the horizon, golden light flooding their world. A heavy silence fell over the woods as the darkness retreated, shrieks echoing into the fading night. They had made it. Sarah felt the warmth of the sun wrap around them like a protective embrace. Mom, we did it. Jamie gasped, his innocent voice ringing with surprise. She fell on her knees, pulling him tight as tears of relief streamed freely. They had fought, clawed their way through, and survived. Together, she whispered, overwhelmed by the bond they had forged in terror, forged in love. The shadows may have been defeated, but she knew the echoes of that night would linger with them. They were free, at least for now. As they sat together on the sunlit snow, Sarah realized that they had both changed, forever marked by the trial they'd faced. But the most important thing was that they had each other. They had survived. And they would never forget. But before they could turn back, the woods whispered one last time, "We will wait." Sarah's heart raced at that lingering echo, but she kept Jamie close. "Let us go home," she said, tightening her grip on his tiny hand, ready to embrace the life ahead of them, whatever it might hold. Now, as you've journeyed through this thrilling escape with Sarah and Jamie, it's time for you to act. Subscribe immediately to the channel so you don't miss the next exclusive stories. Smash that like button now to feed the algorithm. Every click helps. Flood the comments section with your reactions and theories about the ending. Let your voice be heard, and most importantly, share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. Don't wait even one more second. True fans know the importance of supporting the channel through these actions.